Good morning, Team Smarter, and welcome to another week with Pete. It's a very exciting week with Pete because it's the first episode for 2019. And as the year begins, we all pretty much want to know where to invest in 2019. Now, lucky for you guys, we've got a few of the answers. We may not have the right answers, but we certainly believe we do. So for 2019, it's going to be an interesting year. There's going to be a lot of discussions around sort of peaks and troughs and ups and downs. But the reality is that rather than bore you with the macroeconomics and why you should purchase in a particular marketplace and all the key indicators and all that sort of crap, the reality is that what we need to understand as investors is that whatever goes up must come down. And that's very much the essential part of the cyclical nature of the real estate market. It's a bit like buying a brand new car. There's all this hype that's around a particular car. Now, for those of you that know me, I love trucks. So, I watch the commercials and the trucks are coming straight out of the garage and they go over a big jump and into the mud, and I'm sold. But when you take out the hype, by the time you drive out of the driveway, the thing's only worth 20% less than what you've actually paid for it. So it's a similar analogy when it comes to the real estate market. If you take the hype out of the market, then you're paying a price that is essentially correcting itself. Now, Sydney and Melbourne, it's peaked and now it will correct. You're paying, I suppose, the right price. You're taking the hype out of the prices. And that's going to be great for a lot of people that haven't been able to essentially purchase within the Sydney market or Melbourne. However, it's still going to be very, very expensive. So what are the alternatives? Now, you've got to be able to buy in marketplaces where you can achieve capital growth in the short term. So therefore, what we do at Smarter Tenant, we start to analyze particular markets that are at the down and need to go back up. And those type of marketplaces that haven't achieved a lot of capital growth, in the last sort of 5 to 8 years, because Sydney and Melbourne has gone through an absolute ridiculous rally, are areas such as, states I should say, such as Brisbane and also Adelaide. Now, if you take into those particular marketplaces, you're going to achieve a lot of growth in the short term because it has to happen. If it's down, it needs to go back up, and it has to achieve capital growth at some stage. So therefore, they are the marketplaces that we are looking at. The government, state government, have also created a lot of hype within those marketplaces. There's a lot of population. So therefore, you're going to be able to get some really good capital growth in the short term. But what happens is that when you achieve a lot of capital growth, the population will then start to say, well, hang on a second, if I'm achieving prices at above market value or above the averages, then, the Sydney market and Melbourne market has corrected itself, so therefore I will start to move back into those marketplaces. So there's only a very small window of opportunity. A correction in Sydney and Melbourne would really only sort of take around sort of 3 to 4 years, because the prices in Brisbane and Adelaide have become too expensive. So therefore that population starts to move back to those marketplaces, and therefore we then start to achieve the rally, the capital growth. We go through that cyclical nature again. So areas that we are considering in Brisbane are anywhere between that Ipswich, that Toowoomba marketplace. The second range crossing has done absolute wonders and has created a lot of hype, but it's there for the long term. It's really going to help that Toowoomba marketplace get to the Brisbane CBD a lot faster. It's going to take at least a good 40 minutes off the trip. North Brisbane, I'd definitely be considering areas in and around sort of Petrie and also up towards sort of Caboolture. So you really need to sort of have land, and the Caboolture train line has also created a lot of stability within that market. It's also connected the CBD. If you're to consider Adelaide, the former Royal Hospital will be converted into the new space agency. So again, some really good infrastructure, some really good stories. When you take into account a lot of the new technology, or the space technology startups that have already been opened up and have also created a lot of seed funding in Adelaide itself, it's a very, very interesting marketplace. You definitely want to be sort of close to the CBD. The former Royal Adelaide Hospital is just out of the CBD. It's actually North Adelaide, but then you're only moments away from the airport, and you know, some of the greatest beaches around Gleneagles, and if you head sort of closer towards sort of your Hindmarts and Richmonds, they're the types of sort of pockets that you want to try and sort of be in. So there's a lot to do, there's a lot to take into account in 2019. If you are a tenant, you need to be achieving a rent reduction